Hello and welcome. My name is Ansu. If you're new here, consider subscribing down below. One of my favorite videos to honestly film, where I talk about all the different audiobook platforms that I am aware of, talk about the pros and cons and all that jazz, and give you some book recommendations as well. So let's just dive right in. So the first one, obviously, is the more popular one, and that is Audible. So Audible comes in a couple of different forms. You can get a free trial for 30 days, and I think you'll get one free credit to choose on any book that you want. After that free trial is done, you do have to pay for the subscription. If you want to do the subscription, you have to start with the premium membership, which is $14.95 per month for 1 credit, or you could do $25.95 per month for 2 credits. Or you could do annual memberships and it gives you different numbers of credits. Your credits do not expire, so you can use it whenever you want to, on whatever you want to. The good thing is, if you don't like a certain audiobook for whatever reason, you can return it and get something else if you choose to. Another thing about Audible is that it does have Audible originals and Audible exclusive items. So what I mean by that is Audible originals are books that are made only for Audible, and exclusives they're the only platform that you can find these books in. For example, Sarah J. Maas is a very, very popular author. You cannot find any of her audiobooks anywhere else on any of the other platforms that I'm going to be talking about. At least at the time that I'm filming this video, that is the case. So there's some authors whose books are only available on Audible. Now to the cons. I think this membership is very expensive, honestly. If you're going for $14.95 a credit a month, or like $25.95 credit a month, that's like fine, okay? The credit a month means literally you get one book for free, right? That's it. You're paying for one book. But if you wanted to get more books, you have to pay out of your pocket. And the issue with that is some books are very expensive. And I'm talking, if you're looking at the Sarah J. Maas books, there's certain books that are like $30, $40, even $50 per book. And I think that's excessive. To me, that's too much. I personally don't think it's very worth it. To each their own, right? Like if you look at it, you might think, oh, that's very helpful. I would totally get some use out of it. Sure, go ahead. But for me, I think that's very useless. I don't think I would ever spend that much money on just an audiobook. I'd rather physically read it somehow. Even if I'm not like super interested in the book, I would rather physically read it than go for that much money on a specific book. Personally, not a fan of this particular one, but it is an option. The second one I want to talk about, this is something I'm an avid user of. It's called Scribd. Scribd has a wider range of books. So you get ebooks, you get audiobooks, you get magazines, and there's a lot of stuff. You can even get sheet music and stuff. And I've learned pretty recently that Scribd is going to change into Everend. It's going to be the same app, I guess, but it's going to modify into Everend. Scribd essentially costs $11.99 per month. I think that's in US dollars, because I'm pretty sure I pay more in Canadian, but it's a monthly subscription as well. This is definitely much more inclusive. You have a ton of variety of books that you can read. Whether it's an ebook format, whether it is in audiobook format, you can get a lot of variety. Again, like I mentioned, the Audible exclusives are obviously not going to be on here. There are a ton of other like popular books that you're able to get. There is a cap on you getting like more of the more popular or the newer books. I don't know how the cap system works, but there's certain times when I download like a bunch of like very popular books or very new books, they put a hold on some items and you can only get it into next month. That has happened a couple of times, which is a little annoying. I haven't been listening to many books on Scribd right now, so that hold hasn't happened in a while at least. Nonetheless, it hasn't been very hurtful to me. I still enjoy using this particular app. It has a lot of variety, so I would highly recommend this. This is one of the good paid subscriptions that I'm personally a part of, and I would highly recommend you guys to also check this one out. Personally, I think this is totally worth it. Another one is the app called Libby. Libby is part of Overdrive, which is a library app. So if you have a library card, it kind of connects to your library and gives you access to everything like ebooks, magazines, again, audiobooks, whatever. The issue is that it connects to your specific library. So if you have only one library that you have access to, that's the only thing you'll get. The good thing is that you don't get any fines on these books because it gets returned automatically, obviously, because it is online. So you don't have to worry about actually going and physically returning your items, right? The bad thing, obviously, not all books are available, and the hold time is like a library system. If it's a popular book, there's a higher chance that you won't get the copy for a while, sometimes even months. So if you're willing to wait for certain books, this is a really, really good option. Similar to Libby is also Hoopla, which is also another library-based app. The issue with Hoopla, however, is you have a cap in the amount of books that you can download every single month. I think it's like 15 books for me. It can be anything that you download, whether it's ebooks, magazines, audiobooks, whatever you download, it's only 15 items that you can get. So there is a cap for that. But again, it's free. It's connected to your library. So those are the 4 options that I personally use or have used. Audible, unfortunately, is my least favorite from all of these options. I do pay for Scribd, so I am going to stand by that. I think there's a good variety of things that you can get from Scribd. From Libby and Hoopla, it's a combined search if I'm looking for something. And if it's more popular, if it's on Libby and there's a huge wait time, you don't have that wait time on Hoopla. You can literally just get it whenever you wanted to, which is a really good thing. Honestly, the best thing, because some of the books that I want to get on Libby takes like several months for me to get, whereas on Hoopla, it's already available and ready to go. So that's very helpful as well. So I scour through Scribd, Libby, and Hoopla all the time to get the audiobook that I personally want. It has worked for me so far. I really enjoyed it, and I've listened to a ton of audiobook throughout the past couple of years, and so I thought this would be a good segue into some audiobook recommendations. Okay, so the first audiobook recommendation that I have for you guys is The Light We Carry by Michelle Obama. So this one is Michelle Obama's, I think it's the second book that she has written, and I've read both of her books. She's the one who's narrating these books, so her voice talking to you sounds lovely. So I personally really enjoy like listening to these stories that she has to say. Just the way that she narrates is really fun to listen to, and the advice that she gives you, so good. It's just absolutely stunning. I personally love Becoming even more than this one, but I would still recommend both of these audiobooks because they're really, really good. The next one I wanted to recommend is Viola Davis's Finding Me. This is also a memoir, and it talks about Viola Davis's entire life, and this is so heart-wrenching. Viola Davis is such a fucking fantastic actress, and you can also hear it in the way that she narrates the book as well. It almost feels like a story, but it is her real life and the things that she had faced, the traumas that she had to go through to get to the point where she is in right now, the Viola Davis that she is right now, and it's fantastic. It is heart-wrenching. You can feel her emotions. You cry throughout this book. It's so intense, so incredible. I absolutely adore this audiobook, and if you choose anything out of this list, I would highly recommend you guys to pick this one up. At least listen to the sample of it because it's so good, and you can at least get that sense for it. I highly recommend it. So good. The next couple of books, one of them is very highly recommended, so I'm just going to quickly mention it to you. It is supposed to be a very good audiobook, so I have to mention it. It is Daisy Jones and the Sick. I'm sure you've all heard how wonderful this audiobook is because it is a full cast of people and it just sounds so incredible. I personally thought it was really fun. I only listened to a couple of chapters of this book because I did physically read this more than I actually listened to it. At the time, I was not a huge audiobook listener. This is still very, very good, so I will recommend this. But more so than that, I'm also going to talk about Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I personally think whoever does Taylor Jenkins Reid's books as audiobooks, they're all incredibly talented. It's just such a wonderful voice that they give to these characters. It just feels very real, and I personally love how everything is kind of told to you in all these stories, and it's incredible. Carrie Soto falls around this tennis player who started off when she was really young, and her journey throughout life where her dad was her coach and then got kind of fired, and her life throughout this whole time, and now she's in her late 30s, and her number of titles that she has won throughout her life is being challenged at this point, and she's going back into the field essentially. I think the story itself is really fun, and the voice that has been given to this character is just stunning as well. It's just a very lovely story to listen to. Another audiobook that I thought was really well done was None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. This one follows a story of a podcaster who is celebrating her 45th birthday, and in that same restaurant we see another woman named Josie who's also celebrating her 45th birthday, but they're both celebrating in very, very different ways. One of them is very extravagant, and the other one is just very laid back and hardly is celebrating. These two realize that they're birthday twins, and Josie comes up with this new podcast idea of how she's going to be changing her life and how it's going to be a good podcast, and approaches Alex with that story. Alex, although hesitant at first, agrees to it because she thinks it's going to be a fun podcast idea and calls it Hi, I'm Your Birthday Twin. So this one follows around a story where sections of it is kind of told through a Netflix series and others through a podcast, and how people are kind of sitting and talking. If you're reading it physically, it literally tells you like, oh, this person is sitting here with another person and this is what they're wearing and this is how they're talking, whatever. But in the audiobook, it literally goes into just mentioning like, oh, these are two people that you're going to see on screen, and then they start talking with different voices, right? And it just sounds more immersive when you actually listen to it. I thought it was so well done. It was just a very beautiful way to consume the story, and I just really enjoyed that whole aspect of it. So I would highly recommend this audiobook as well. Again, this is such a good physical read, but the audiobook was just so immersive. It felt like you were listening to a podcast, and it was great. I really, really like that. Another more like adventurous story that I have for you is The Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty. This one follows around Amina, who is a pirate, has completely retired, and she's living with her little daughter and her grandmother or her mother or someone. They're all living together and she's completely retired. Some random woman just approaches her. She is the mother of some previous employee of Amina's. It is for another heist to save that lady's granddaughter. This particular heist is going to pay incredibly well, and Amina cannot say no to it because it's such a lot of money, and it's her adventures from there and on. What I really liked about this audiobook particularly is that there's sections in here where they've recorded their voices basically to say like, hey, something is going on and this is what's happening. It's kind of like an audio diary, and you can really hear it when you're listening to the audiobook, how far away from the microphone and whatnot. It just sounds so incredible, and I really enjoyed that whole aspect of it. Also, it's an adventurous story, so when you're like listening to it, it's more immersive. It feels like you're in a ship on the sea and whatnot. It's just really fun. I think this is a great listen, so I would highly recommend you guys to also listen to this one. Okay, the final one I really want to recommend is the Red Rising Dramatized Edition by Paris Brown. And I specifically say the Dramatized Edition because I've never actually listened to anything else that was dramatized. And the good thing about that is that you get all of these sound effects. Maybe it could be a little distracting, but honestly it was very fun for me. I felt more into it really. I found it very difficult to get into this book, but listening to that dramatized version, it felt like I was actually on Mars, and I felt like I was in a battlefield. It was just so good. I would highly recommend the dramatized version. This one is a sci-fi that follows around the Reds and the Golds. The Reds are basically poor people who are being downtrodden. Nobody really cares about them. They have to do all kinds of difficult work and they're stuck in the situation, whereas the Golds are living high and fancy lives essentially. Darrow, our main character, is trying to infiltrate into the Golds and work against them and like destroy them from within. It's a fun story. Personally, the story itself was not my favorite, but it's a beautiful audiobook as a dramatized version. I really enjoyed it. I had a really good time with it. The sound effects of people dying was just like very gruesome. Loved it. So those are all the recommendations I had, whether it is for the audiobook platforms or whether it was for some audiobook recommendations. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I had made a video like in the past sometime. I think it's kind of dated and I have some more extra recommendations for you guys. Let me know down below what are some of your favorite audiobooks. I would love to know. But yeah, that is it for me. If you're new here, hi, welcome. My name is Ansu. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to be notified every single time I upload a new video. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you all next time with another one. Until then, I'll talk to you all in the comments. Bye!